Did you know that over 90% of the world's batteries today still depend on lithium? It's a powerful material, but here's the problem. Lithium is running low, and just a few countries have control over most of it. So while we talk a big game about leading the world in clean energy and electric vehicles here in the US, the truth is we're still heavily reliant on China for our battery supply chain. And that dependence, it comes with a cost. Most of the lithium-ion cells used in electric vehicles are shipped in from Asia. That alone drives prices up by more than 25%, not to mention it exposes us to huge risks in the supply chain. But what if there was an alternative? An American-made battery solution crafted using resources from our own land that cost 30% less and still delivers safe, reliable performance for EVs? Well, that battery exists, and in today's episode of Electric Mind, we're diving deep into this game-changing innovation, the sodium-ion battery. So what makes sodium-ion EV batteries such a big deal? For starters, they're tough. These things hold up in extreme cold and still perform like champs. And charging? It's so fast it'll make your head spin. Some versions are already delivering over 600 miles on a single charge. That's right, 600 miles. That puts it shoulder to shoulder with the legendary second-gen Tesla Roadster. Imagine this. You hop in your car in Las Vegas, cruise to Los Angeles, and then drive right back, all on one charge. No range anxiety, no stress. That's the kind of energy freedom sodium-ion batteries are promising, especially for American drivers. Now, this isn't a pipe dream. It's already happening. A company called unveiled has done the homework, built the prototype, and is now manufacturing sodium-ion batteries at a facility in California's Mojave Desert. When unveiled dropped its sodium-ion battery, it shocked the industry. Experts were floored. This relatively unknown battery maker launched a 50 megawatt-hour pilot plant and released performance stats that grabbed serious attention. Independent labs confirmed what many hoped was true. Their prototype cell hits 210 watt-hours per kilogram. That's just 10% shy of today's best lithium-ion batteries, but it's still powerful enough to push a midsize EV between 400 to 600 miles on a single charge. But perhaps even more impressive than the range is the charging speed. At a recent demo, engineers, including consultants from the legendary team at Monroe & Associates, watched this battery charge from 0 to 80% in just 12 minutes. And get this, it wasn't using some super fancy futuristic tech, just regular 4800-volt hardware that's already in place across much of the US. This isn't a small tweak. It's a leap forward. Shorter charging times mean shorter stops. And for older drivers especially, that kind of consistency and convenience is priceless. Durability? Sodium-ion batteries don't disappoint there either. unveiled's test units have already completed over 5,000 full charge-discharge cycles while losing less than 10% of their capacity. That translates into over a decade of real-world use before you even notice any range drop-off. And temperature resilience? It's next level. These batteries work smoothly from minus 13 degrees Fahrenheit all the way up to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. Compare that to traditional lithium-ion packs, which can lose 20 to 30% of their power in deep cold. Anyone living in places like Chicago or Minneapolis knows exactly how frustrating winter range loss can be. Industry veteran Sandy Munro, famous for tearing down EVs and calling it exactly how he sees it, inspected unveiled's production line and real-world data. His verdict? He called it the biggest practical advancement since the first commercial lithium cell. That's a bold endorsement from someone who's known for being brutally honest. One of the key advantages of this sodium-ion tech is that it doesn't require a total overhaul of how we build EVs today. The battery format fits right into current 400 and 800-volt skateboard platforms. That means automakers won't need to spend a fortune retooling factories or retraining workers. It's a plug-and-play solution that fits into today's infrastructure. But even with all those impressive numbers, one question still hangs in the air. Can this be scaled up? Sure, a pilot plant is promising, but mass production is a different beast. Well, here's the good news. Sodium-ion batteries are much simpler to manufacture. They require 33% fewer coating steps than solid-state batteries, and their formation time, that's how long it takes the battery to stabilize during early use. Sodium-ion cells only need 1 to 2 cycles compared to 3 to 5 for lithium-ion and even more for solid-state batteries. Now let's talk cost. Sodium-ion batteries can be produced for just $50 to $70 per kilowatt hour. That's a big deal. Lithium-ion cells? Those still cost anywhere from $100 to $150 per kilowatt hour. Solid-state batteries? Over $200. Even nickel metal hydride batteries cost more, $80 to $120 per kilowatt hour. In other words, sodium-ion is the most cost-efficient option on the table right now, and it's especially ideal for affordable EVs priced under $30,000. That cost-effectiveness also makes sodium-ion a perfect fit for large-scale energy storage. Think solar farms, wind turbines, and grid-level power backup systems, places where budget matters just as much as performance. Right now, Navolt is reportedly in talks with major U.S. automakers. Names like Tesla, Ford, and Stellantis are all on the table. If things go smoothly, we could see the first sodium-ion EVs hit American roads by the early 2030s. For drivers who'd been hesitant about going electric, maybe because of range anxiety, long charge times, or concerns about cold weather reliability, this might finally be the battery you've been waiting for.
And there's another reason sodium-ion is becoming a must-have right now. On June 12, 2025, President Trump signed 3 Congressional Review Act resolutions that effectively repealed California's vehicle emissions standards. That move eliminated the state's zero-emission vehicle (ZEV) mandate, which had previously required that 100% of new passenger vehicles sold in California be electric or hydrogen-powered by 2035. With that mandate gone, the pressure is on automakers to find solutions that don't rely on strict regulations to drive EV adoption. The focus now is on making EVs cheaper, faster to charge, and easier to build. And sodium-ion batteries check every one of those boxes. When you step back and look at the big picture, abundant raw materials, low costs, cold weather resilience, fast charging, and simple production, it's easy to see why sodium-ion is finally having its moment. Now, let's talk about what really matters: scaling. See, it's one thing to build an impressive battery in a lab or even in a small pilot run, but how do you bring that innovation to mass production, cleanly, affordably, and without months of delays? That's where sodium-ion batteries really start to pull ahead. Unlike solid-state batteries, which require highly complex layering and longer stabilization times, sodium-ion batteries simplify the whole process. We're talking about 33% fewer coating steps. That alone shaves time, cost, and technical complexity off the manufacturing line. And the formation process, basically the conditioning of the battery, is faster too. Sodium cells only need 1 to 2 charge-discharge cycles to stabilize. Compare that to 3 to 5 cycles for lithium-ion, or even longer for solid-state. That's less time sitting idle, more time being installed into real-world electric vehicles. But let's break this down in hard numbers. The production cost for sodium-ion batteries, it's sitting around $50 to $70 per kilowatt hour. That's half the cost of lithium-ion, which is still hovering between $100 to $150 per kilowatt hour. And don't even get us started on solid-state or nickel metal hydride. Solid-state can climb to $200 per kilowatt hour. Easy. Now think about that in terms of actual EVs. If you're trying to build a mass-market electric car, say under $30,000, battery cost is everything. Sodium-ion is practically tailor-made for this space. It's not just a cheaper battery, it's the right battery at the right time. And companies are paying attention. Unveiled, the startup at the center of this sodium revolution, has already opened up conversations with some of the biggest names in the industry. Sources say they're in talks with Tesla, Ford, and Stellantis North America. If these negotiations go through, we might see sodium-powered EVs in showrooms as early as the 2030s.
Let's zoom out for a second. Why now? Why sodium? Because the regulatory landscape just shifted, and it's creating a sense of urgency. On June 12, 2025, President Trump repealed California's zero-emission vehicle mandate by signing off on 3 Congressional Review Act resolutions. That move essentially wiped out California's long-standing Clean Air Act waiver, which had required 100% of new passenger cars be electric or hydrogen-powered by 2035. That's not just a policy reversal, it's a gut punch to EV momentum. Suddenly, car makers are left in a fog. Without regulatory mandates to guide electrification, companies are scrambling to find new ways to keep costs down and appeal to buyers. And in this moment of uncertainty, sodium-ion has stepped up. Here's why it's now seen as a strategic asset. Raw materials are abundant and low cost. The production process is streamlined. Energy performance is good enough. Cold weather durability is unmatched. Safety profile is superior to lithium. In other words, it checks the boxes that EV makers need to check, especially if they're trying to offset lost ZEV incentives while still competing with gasoline. Take Tesla, for example. They're now exploring commercial-scale sodium-ion batteries that deliver 400 kilometers of range. That's right in line with current LFP, lithium iron phosphate, but at a significantly lower cost.
This battery tech is being targeted specifically for Tesla's $25,000 electric vehicle, sometimes referred to as the Tesla Model 2. That price point has always been the holy grail of EVs. But to hit it, you need a battery that's not only cheaper, but also simple to scale and install. And sodium-ion might just be the missing puzzle piece. For the first time ever, a sodium-ion battery pack is matching LFP range numbers. That sent shockwaves across the industry. Why? Because it shows that supply bottlenecks are no longer the main challenge. It's not about sourcing lithium or cobalt anymore. It's about deploying smarter tech at a better price. And get this, Tesla's 4680 battery cell line is already producing over 3.5 million cells per week, focused mostly on higher-end models like the Model Y and the Cybertruck. But when it comes to entry-level EVs, they need something different, something leaner, cheaper, and easier to produce at scale. That's where startups like Bedrock Materials come in. Founded by a former Tesla battery design engineer, Bedrock is developing sodium-ion cells that can deliver up to 300 miles of range at a cost lower than today's cheapest LFP batteries. This isn't a pipe dream. The chemistry is real. The performance is real. Let's talk energy density, the big hurdle for sodium-ion. It's true that sodium-ion batteries historically struggled here. Lithium ions are smaller and lighter, so they naturally store more energy per kilogram. But the gap is closing fast. Over the last 2 years, sodium-ion battery energy density has increased by 40%, faster than any other battery chemistry in that time frame. And we're not just talking about some lab prototype. These new batteries are proving their worth in the real world. They're hitting over 210 watt-hours per kilogram, just 10% shy of premium lithium-ion packs, and enough to push mid-size EVs 400 to 600 miles on a single charge. Now, some might still say, yeah, but I want more range. Fair enough, but sodium has a comeback ready, and it's called ultra-fast charging. In real-world tests, sodium-ion packs are hitting 0 to 80% in just 12 minutes, even on basic 480-volt infrastructure. That means less waiting, less range anxiety, and more time doing what you actually want to do, driving. And in case you're wondering about battery life, sodium's no slouch there either. These cells have survived over 5,000 full charge-discharge cycles with less than 10% capacity loss. That's over a decade of daily use without noticeable range fade. Some tests are suggesting they could last up to 50,000 partial cycles thanks to sodium's chemical stability. Safety? That's another huge win. Sodium is far less reactive than lithium, meaning the odds of fire or thermal runaway are dramatically reduced. For EV owners who've worried about battery fires, this offers serious peace of mind. And cold weather performance? Off the charts. Where lithium packs start to falter in frigid temperatures, sodium cells keep going strong. Test shows sodium-ion batteries retain 88% of their capacity at -20 degrees Celsius, way better than lithium phosphate batteries, which can drop below 70%. If you've ever tried to drive an EV through a Chicago winter, you know how crucial that is.
But look, sodium-ion isn't perfect. It's heavier, and the energy density still lags behind lithium. So yes, you might lose a few miles of range, or the battery might weigh the same as carrying an extra passenger. But ask yourself, is that a deal breaker for a $25,000 EV? For most people, the answer is no. Because what people want today isn't luxury, it's accessibility, it's affordability. It's knowing they can finally go electric without spending $60,000 or more. Sodium-ion makes that a reality. Now that we've covered performance, cost, and charging speed, let's look at something just as critical: environmental impact. Because at the end of the day, the electric vehicle movement isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It's about creating a better, cleaner world. One where our energy doesn't come at the expense of the planet. And that's where sodium-ion batteries truly shine. See, lithium extraction is messy. It often involves harsh chemicals and huge amounts of water, especially in South America's lithium triangle: Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. In places like Chile's Atacama Desert, it takes 500,000 gallons of water to extract just 1 ton of lithium. That's water taken from local farmers, indigenous communities, and already fragile ecosystems. Now add in cobalt, mostly mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where the industry has faced serious accusations of child labor, unsafe conditions, and environmental destruction. Sodium-ion changes all that. Sodium is one of the most abundant elements on Earth. It's found in salt, seawater, and rock deposits across the United States. No geopolitical fights, no humanitarian concerns, no environmental catastrophes. And it's not just sodium itself that makes the difference. Many sodium-ion batteries are also being built without cobalt or nickel, two of the most problematic and expensive elements in today's battery supply chain. That gives manufacturers a much cleaner path to sustainability, and it frees EV makers from the political headaches of international sourcing. Even the end-of-life recycling process is simpler with sodium-ion batteries. Since there are fewer rare earth elements and toxic metals, the process is safer and more cost-effective. And because sodium isn't a hazardous material in the same way lithium is, these batteries can often be handled with less strict safety protocols, cutting recycling costs even further. In fact, some researchers are now looking at using sodium-ion batteries in second-life applications before recycling. That means taking old EV batteries and giving them a new purpose in homes, businesses, or even solar farms.
So what's stopping everyone from switching to sodium-ion tomorrow? Well, like any new technology, infrastructure and investment are the big hurdles. Right now, the lithium supply chain has decades of momentum behind it. Factories are optimized for lithium. Engineers are trained in lithium. Regulatory bodies have built their safety standards around lithium. Sodium-ion, in contrast, is the new kid on the block. That means automakers and governments alike will need to invest in new production lines, new safety protocols, and new partnerships to bring it to full scale. But that's starting to happen. In China, companies like KATL, the world's largest battery maker, have already begun shipping sodium-ion batteries to automakers like Chery and BYD. The first sodium-powered cars have already rolled off the line. And now the US is racing to catch up. Here's where it gets interesting. After years of battery tech being outsourced, American companies like Unveiled and Bedrock Materials are bringing it home. They're building gigafactories in the desert, working with US-based supply chains, and designing cells that are optimized for local production. This isn't just a win for the environment, it's a win for national security. Because right now, more than 80% of lithium-grade lithium is processed in China. That creates a dangerous bottleneck for American EV makers. If relations between the US and China sour, or if a supply chain gets disrupted, the entire EV industry here could grind to a halt. Sodium-ion offers a way out of that trap. It allows the US to build batteries with American materials on American soil using American workers. And that's a big deal, not just for job creation, but for energy independence. So let's paint the picture of what this future might look like. It's 2032. You walk into a dealership in Michigan or Nevada. There's a compact EV sitting on the lot. Sleek, affordable, practical. It doesn't cost $60,000 or even $40,000. It costs $25,000. The salesperson tells you it charges to 80% in 12 minutes. It has 350 miles of range. It'll still be running strong a decade from now, and it's built using materials mined in Utah and manufactured in a facility just a few hours away. No cobalt, no lithium shortage, no supply chain chaos. And when you ask about winter driving, the response is simple. This battery doesn't care if it's -10 outside. That's the power of sodium-ion. Now, will this tech replace all lithium-ion batteries? No. Lithium will still dominate premium performance vehicles for now, especially in segments that demand the highest energy density, like luxury sedans or high-performance trucks. But for the mass market, the millions of people who want clean, affordable transportation, sodium-ion might just be the perfect fit. It's not just about science. It's about democratizing electric power. It's about giving everyday Americans access to EVs that are reliable, affordable, and made right here at home. As we wrap this episode of Electric Mind, here's the big takeaway. Sodium-ion batteries are no longer a theory. They're here. They're being built. They're being tested. They're getting ready to hit the road. And when they do, they might just spark the next great revolution in American transportation. Because sometimes the future isn't built on what's rare or exotic. Sometimes it's built on what's always been there. Hiding in plain sight. Salt. Earth. Fire. Speed. That's the future. Thanks for watching Electric Mind. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share this episode if you believe in smarter energy. And drop a comment below. What do you think about sodium-ion batteries? Will they change the game, or is lithium here to stay? Until next time, stay charged.